Hello guys, this is Just One Guy, and this is my tutorial series, Unity for Noobs. Now in this episode, we're continuing on with the multi-platform RPG project, and what we're going to handle is camera clipping. And the way we're going to deal with it in this particular episode is by making the object transparent. Now, when something comes in between the player and the camera, like a building or something, we're going to make that transparent. So let's get down to it. Okay, the first thing we need to do is create a cube. Now, since I've done this before, I already know we're going to make the X scale 4, the Y scale 10, and the Z scale 4. Now we're just going to move it a little bit forward in front of the player. And we're going to pull it a little bit up because the way the pivot is, it comes in the middle of the object. Now we're just going to open up our navigation window. And first, we have to mark the cube as static. Then go to our navigation window and rebake the nav mesh. And we're just doing that so the player can go around it instead of trying to go through it. Now we need to create our material, and we're just going to go to create, and where is it, material, and we're going to name it transparent. Now we're going to change the shader to mobile particle addictive. Now I've changed it to the addictive shader because I found that was the one that made it transparent. There is a shader that's supposed to make it transparent in here somewhere, but it didn't work for me, and this is the one that did work for me. Now it takes a texture, and if you don't put the texture on it, it's just going to turn everything white like this right here, and it's not really going to be transparent. Now what we're going to use for the texture is the grid emissions, and I'll show you where I got this from. Just standard assets, prototyping, textures, and you have it right here, the grid emissions. Now if you don't have that, just go to assets, import package, and prototyping, and once you import that, you'll have that in your project. Okay, now I've already created the script. Let me just see right here. We're gonna put it in the camera script, which we went over in the last tutorial. And if you don't have this one, you can go back to the last tutorial before this one and just download it from the description, or go through the whole tutorial if you want. Now I already put it in the camera manager test script right here, just for the sake of speed, and I'll demonstrate what it does right here. We just have to go to our trans shader right there and get our transparent shader, and there we go. And now we're going to do a little description, a little demonstration, and you can see if I tell the player to go behind that object, the object becomes transparent, and if he moves away from it, it returns to its normal shader. Now sometimes it does do that little thing right there. I'm not for sure what that particular thing is. I guess it's a thing of the program, because when I maximize the window, it doesn't do that anymore. Well, when I get up close, I'm not for sure if it was there beforehand, but everything seems to be working. So let's go into the coding now. Now this is the test script that I've already written beforehand, and we're just going to go in here and put everything that we need into our actual camera manager. Now the first three variables we need is trans, OG mat, and camera object. And I'm going to go over these. The first one, trans, is the material that we created, that transparent material. This right here is the second material, is the original material. Now the way this system works, it raycasts a beam onto the it raycasts a beam from the camera onto the object, and when it hits that object, it'll get that original material, and it'll change the object's material into the transparent material, and that's the variable right here for the original material, so that when we move the camera away, it can change it back. And we have the camera object, and that's just the object that the beam will be hidden. So the first thing, let's just write our variables in here. Go here, just clean this up a little bit. Now the first one we need is public, because we want to be able to assign this material, which will be our trans material, public material, and we're just going to name it trans for short. Second, we're going to need, we'll probably make this private later, but for now, I'm going to just leave it as public, just so you can see what's going on. And this is going to be OG Mats, the shorthand for OG material. And our last one is going to be a transform, which is the cam object, which is what the camera beam is hitting. Now we have all our variables out. Let's go to our functions. Our first two functions are these two right here, and this is use transparent material, and this is use normal material. And what this does is it just tells the camera to change that particular cam object into a transparent material. And the second one is it just changes it back to normal. Now I apologize if you can't see the mouse that I'm trying to move around, but the way the program works, it kind of makes my mouse disappear no matter what I do. Right here, so I apologize for that, but it shouldn't be too much of an inconvenience. Now I couldn't think of any names, so I just named this thing, and this is the cam object is going to be the transform that the object will take. This function will take. So let's write these two functions out right down here. Wait, and just because I'm bad with naming things and I don't want to get this name wrong, I'm just going to copy it from here. And we're going to say use transparent material, and it takes a transform, which is going to be the cam object, and I named it thing because I couldn't come up with anything else. And our second one is going to be void use normal material, and that takes a transform, which is also going to be the cam object. Just take that out. Okay. Now what we have here is the renderer, and that's what physically renders the object on screen. And that's what we're going to be accessing, and the renderer takes a material. I'll show you right here. With this cube, this would be the renderer, the mesh renderer, and this would be the material. And we're just going to change that material to a transparent material, as you saw before. So let's get to it. And the way I did it was renderer, this renderer, because I couldn't come up with anything else because I was writing this tutorial very early in the morning, and we just need to get the reference to this renderer, what this renderer is going to be equal to. So this renderer equals thing, which is again the cam object dot get component, and we're just going to say renderer. Even though it's just a general renderer, it'll get any type of renderer, a mesh renderer or anything, as you saw before. And finally, we're going to say this renderer. Yeah, this. Oh, spelled it wrong. This renderer. Ooh, I forgot the extra ER in it. Yeah. Ooh, apologies. Forgot the extra ER. This renderer dot what was it? I believe it was shared materials. Yeah, Now, in some cases, it won't be a shared material, but in this case, the standard shader is most of the time a shared material. So that's what and for me, I haven't had any trouble working with it, but I use shared materials instead of materials because that always picks it up. Shared materials, is it shared material or yeah, material equals, get a little error here. Just make sure everything is okay. Yeah, there. Okay, shared materials is going to equal our material up here, which is trans, and that's going to make it transparent. And we're just going to take this and copy and paste it because it's going to be the same, except for one difference. Except right here, we're going to say it equals the original material. And that's it for those functions. Our last function, I believe it is the actual camera clipping. Now this just shoots the raycast out from the camera to the player, and if it hits anything in between, and the OG materials no, the original materials no, which it always should be, it'll the cam object will equal hit dot transform, and what the hit is the information from the whatever the raycast hit, and it'll hit the object, and it'll get the transform of that hit. And if the original materials no, what it'll do is the original material will equal whatever it hits material, and then after that it'll just say use transparent material. And if the raycast hits nothing, then it'll just and it still has a cam object, it'll transform. I mean, it'll say use the normal material. And the reason we check for a cam object is we don't want this code being called over and over and over again, or in case we don't have a cam object or something like that. So we just say if the cam object is there, use the normal material, and then it says the cam object equals null and the original material equals null, which resets the whole process. And you can see the cam object equals null, so it doesn't call over and over again, wasting processing time, well, processing power. So let's write that function in here. What we're going to do is void. Let's see what I named it. Camera clipping detection. And let's see. Okay, raycast hit. And we're just going to name that hit. And that's going to be the raycast hit that carries the information from the raycast, whatever the raycast hit. And right here is this is just a debug in case you ever want to look at what the object is hitting. I mean, what the raycast is hitting in case it messes up or something. I'm just going to copy and paste that because it's not really important to this tutorial. But it's just a debug.draw a line from the target position to the transform position. And since this camera manager script is on the camera, the transform position will be the camera's position. And we're just saying that the color of the beam equals red, and we want the beam to last for 0.1 seconds. Now, I hope I don't mess up on this, but what we're using is physics dot line cast. Now, the difference between a raycast and a line cast is a line cast goes from one point to another. And for instance, in this particular instance, it's going to go from the camera to the player. Some errors there, but in a raycast will just go in a direction, like if you wanted it to go forward or up or anything like that. For the line cast, just goes from one point to another. And as you can see, that's where it takes the start and the end position. Our start position will be the just make sure I got this right. Okay, yeah, the start position will be the player, which will be the target. Position, and the end position will be the transform, our transform position, which is the cam position, since this script will be on a camera. And Okay. I also I put I don't believe you need this. Yeah, I'm gonna just leave this out because this was something else. But in some cases, you might want the beam to start a little bit in back of the. I mean, you want the beam to hit a little bit in back of the camera, just because sometimes it'll get a little shaky. But that's not really relevant right now because in this particular instance, I don't want to overcomplicate this. So we're just gonna put the hit. Well, we gotta put out in C sharp and hit, which is going to be the information of that the raycast hit when we shoot the beam. So let's just go here, and I believe we have to write the else statement. Just say else, and what we got here? Okay, cam object hits, and the camera object is going to equal the hit dot transform, and that's how we get the object. And then we say if, I believe it was cam object, if the OG material is null. And this just check, do we already have a cam object or not, so it's not doing it over and over again. And we just say the OG material, OG material equals cam object dot get component. Spelled it wrong there. Get component renderer, as we did before. Spelling everything wrong today. Dot material, and that just gets the material from the object and sets it as the original material so we can change it back later. And we're just going to say use the transparent material, so the object will not be transparent. And that takes a transform, which is going to be, I put hit.transform, but you could put cam object at this point anyway. But I just use hit.transform just in case. And now, if the beam isn't hitting anything, what we're going to do is if cam object and we're just going to say use the normal material. Takes a transform, so we're going to just use the cam object. Then we're going to set the OG material to null, so we don't have a material anymore, and it resets the process. And we're going to change the cam object to null, so we don't have the cam object anymore, and that'll reset the whole process. And I think that's it. Now let me see where I called this from. Well, I'm just going to call it from the update function, which I believe in this one is a late update. I'm not for sure. Just fine. Yeah, late update. Right under if we have a target, just to make sure we have a target. And I believe that's it. Let's wait for this to compile. Come on. Compile. It always seems like it just waits extra long right there. And let's go to our camera, and we'll put the camera manager script on, which I already done. And we'll just delete the test one, which we had as an example. I'll put that on. Make sure it gets the, nah, I think it automatically gets the player. I'm pretty sure. So all we need is to assign is the material, which will be the transparent, the trans material right here, which will be the transparent material that we made earlier. And I believe that should be it. And it changes transparent and it goes back.